Morning. If you would please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I'm going to open the public hearing on Senate Bill 617 and invite the sponsor to introduce the bill. Anyone? Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not really involved with 617 other than the fact that House Bill 1492 passed the House in a large margin and went over to the Senate, and language from that bill has been put on 617. So I'm not sure why there aren't any senators or sponsors here, but I can certainly speak to the guts of the bill.
If you could, we're really the policy committee on criminal justice, so we're going to focus really only on the penalty today. So we're not going to rehear the whole bill. We just want to talk about the penalties involved, if you could.
Yeah, so there is new penalty language I just saw this morning. And that I think is found on page 6, line 30.
You're speaking about the amendment.
The amendment, yeah.
That hasn't been, that's not really before us yet. You can talk to it because that's going to be before us shortly. That's what we're going to end up voting on.
Okay, so looking at, again, I haven't looked at 617 since I was not involved with 617, but there is an amendment that is before you that does have some language in it. I guess it could be considered a penalty provision, and that's the Tom Walsh Amendment. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Mr. Chairman. That's Amendment 1510H, which put on the Senate bill all the House language, and the only particular language in that I think had any sort of penalty would be on page 2, line 15, where it says, if any payment has not been made, order that the vehicle may be immediately released from impoundment with the agency assuming full liability of lien. I guess that could be some penalty language. Again, most of the language in 617, I believe, has to do with the storage of abandoned vehicles. And to be quite honest with you, I have not looked at the Senate language since I wasn't involved in 617.
So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you just coming up and introducing the bill. You
Yeah,
didn't have
that's
to do
good.
that.
That's fine with me. And if there are any questions that come up later, I'll be happy to come back.
Thank you. What do we got for cards? Okay. Major Amatucci, would you mind, is he still here? Would you mind coming up and just, if you could, fill in the committee on the changes that were made in the amendment that everyone has as far as the violations and the changes to the license?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Matt Amatucci, major with the New Hampshire State Police. I don't have the amendment right in front of me, but essentially what came up with 617 and 1492, those two bills were married. And one of the things that was not addressed was the penalties if on the invoice the appeal is not clearly laid out for the customer. So because it wasn't specified, it defaults to a misdemeanor for an individual and a felony for a business. So
If I could just interrupt for the committee's purposes, he's talking about the tow truck driving company. If they don't notify someone of their right to appeal I believe it's the cost or the tow fee.
the appeal process.
They don't notify them of the appeal process. The way the bill was written, it would have constituted a misdemeanor penalty for the tow truck driver. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please go on. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure everyone understood who we were talking about.
So one of the changes to the law is to clearly lay out what the appeal process is on the invoice to the customers. And because it didn't specify what the penalty was, it would default to a misdemeanor or a felony for the business. So what this amendment does is it specifies that it would be a violation, I believe, with a $100 fine, which we support that that portion of the amendment. In the second part, license suspension. So currently, if a customer does not believe that the fees are reasonable, they can request a hearing through hearings, and if it's deemed to be, sorry, there's two different hearings. They can request to have a hearing if the fees aren't paid, and they can request to have their driver's license suspended if they don't pay their fees. So what this amendment does is it allows them to not renew their driver's license. So it wouldn't suspend their driver's license immediately. It effectively, they couldn't renew it until they pay their bills for their fees. So currently, that's the only mechanism that the tow industry has. If people don't, other than going to small claims court, the only recourse that they have if an individual doesn't pay their fee is to go in and request to have their driver's license suspended, which is problematic for industry. It's the last thing that the industry wants because then they're not going to get paid if the people can't drive to their jobs, but they do need to have some type of recourse. So we also agree that this is a middle ground that we support.
Thank you. And to be clear, this is police initiated tows, not.
Yes, sir.
This has nothing to do with private tows at all.
That is correct.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Representative Murphy, then Representative Scher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. I haven't read the bill, but I just wondered what's the time frame in which a person has to pay their fine before that hearing about license suspension?
So thank you for the question. In current statute, it's 15 days that you can request to have a hearing. In the current bill, if you will, or the amendment, it increases it to 30 days.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand a part of what you said in relation to the misdemeanor and the felony and the violation. Does the amendment change it just to a violation for the tow truck driver and the company, or just one?
So thank you for the question. I'm not sure how it specifies it in the amendment, but it would be a violation, I assume, for either, whether it's the tow truck operator or the business.
Yeah, I ask that because I'm uncomfortable with the tow truck driver, who is an employee of a company, being tagged with a misdemeanor for something in this circumstance. Second question is, why are we, follow up. Is there any other circumstance that you're aware of where license suspension is used to implement to facilitate the collection of a private debt?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, as I understand it, if somebody doesn't pay the tow company the amount to pay their the assessment for their car being towed and stored, then within a certain period of time, then their license cannot be renewed under the amendment. Is that right?
Yes.
Is there any other circumstance that you're aware of where a private company gets to how do I want to put this? It gets to use the public system, that is license suspension or lack of license renewal, to collect the debt?
I'm not aware of any.
And do you think it's appropriate that I know it's hard. follow-up. Well, prosecutors messed up my line of questioning all the time, so. Now that I've been totally distracted, what's wrong with, why isn't it just they get to go to small claims court to collect the money they're owed? What is different about this circumstance that we're going to use the public license privilege to collect debts for a private agency?
All right, thank you for the question. I think it's a little bit more complicated than how simple the question appears. So when there's an accident out on the highways, there's urgency to get, public safety concerns where these scenes need to be cleared. So, you have EMS that will respond, you have fire that respond, you have law enforcement that respond, all getting paid. We have to have tow truck operators come. So that's why New Hampshire State Police has a tow list, a rotating list for the approximately 6,000 tows that we do a year. And they come out to these scenes. They're responsible for clearing those scenes, and they're not getting paid. So where everybody else who's out there in these dangerous environments are being paid. And if they don't have any mechanism, if they're forced to go to small claims court, our fear is that they just won't take those calls. They'll go to other calls, which will prolong how long public safety is out on these highways. So we view these tow businesses as an extension of us. We have a vetting process, and that's what we were looking to clean up in this language. We run criminal history checks. We vet them, and to think that it's reasonable that they have to go to small claims every time somebody doesn't pay them. The other option would be, a theft of service type charge, which again would be tying up law enforcement resources every time somebody doesn't. So I feel that this is a middle ground. I feel that it's appropriate. I think it's reasonable that you pay your fee. You pay your fee, and if you don't, you can't renew your driver's license. It's not going to be suspended immediately, but I feel that this is a good common ground for everybody involved.
Thank you.
One last question from me. Is it true that tow operators often transport the drivers from the scene? I mean, if they're not under arrest, if they're not injured, their car just died and you guys call the tow, do they sometimes even transport the people back to their house?
Yes, thank you for the question. That's very common practice where they will take the passengers of vehicles and oftentimes drive them to the tow business itself until they can find a ride.
And that's the reason that they undergo background checks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, absolutely.
Am I understanding correctly that the reason, I assume that one possible remedy for the tow operator not being paid was simply to say, in other circumstances might simply be to say, well, if you don't pay, you don't get the vehicle back. But am I understanding that the reason that doesn't work in this situation is, in many cases, the person doesn't really care about whether they get the vehicle back or not?
Thank you for the question. That's exactly it. The value of the vehicle, and what we'll see is the value of vehicles will continue to diminish in the state, and it's not worth what's owed.
Thank you.
And sometimes it's only parts of a vehicle that get swept up on the road. So yeah, there's no vehicle. Thank you, Major Amitucci.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, this current state of the law is license suspension. So this would actually be making it better.
I appreciate that the current state of law is license suspension. It rubs me wrong that, they don't have to sign up for the list.
If nobody signs up for the list.
Well, yeah, but that's we'll save it for
Yeah,
executive
we'll
session.
discuss it in
We
the
can go
executive.
back and forth now.
No, okay, anybody else wishing to testify in this bill who wasn't signed up to do so? Well,
Under your elbow.
well,
I put it under his elbow.
the chair calls Jay O'Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jay O'Leary. I'm here for the New Hampshire Auto Dealers Association. And I haven't seen the amendment that is being discussed. I just want to address a couple of points. The first being about the invoice. It sounds as if there might be a change made to
The
reduce that
invoice will
part of
have
it.
to say on it, it'll have to put the appeal process on the invoice.
Our concern is the misdemeanor and felony that's attached to it, but that's going to be okay. The second part is the concept behind the license suspension, and I just kind of want to make it draw a point back to where this came from, because RSA 26240 is the statute that talks about abandoned motor vehicle penalties, and there are two penalties that the legislature enacted, and that first one is a fine of $100 to $500, and the second is a license suspension. The talk of unpaid towing fees being as a result of, the suspension being as a result of unpaid towing fees is not an accurate depiction, because the legislature decided back in 2003 in House Bill 699 that the director should have the authority to shall suspend. They changed it from may to shall. And that was because at the time they were having an increase of abandoned motor vehicles. And to address that, there were 3 bills that were introduced that session. And 699 was a result of all 3, culmination of the 3 of them. They originally wanted to make it a misdemeanor crime for somebody to abandon a motor vehicle. And the legislature thought that that was a step too far. So they, in turn, decided to make one of those penalties a license suspension. Now, a component of that suspension is paying the tow fee. Much like if somebody gets arrested for vandalizing somebody's property, the court can require the person to pay restitution. And that's not the court using, that is not the victim using the court as a way or a manner in which to collect the debt. That is part of what the restitution is involved. So in this case, I just want to draw to the fact that this is a penalty that the legislature has enacted in 2003. This is not a tool that is used by the tow company to collect the debt.
Thank you. That actually helped frame that much better, because by virtue of not paying, they're not getting their car back. That means they've left their car, they've abandoned their motor vehicle. And now the tow company is stuck with not only the bill, but now they have a vehicle they have to dispose of. So that does help frame for our understanding better. Thank you very much. Yes, Representative Lascelles.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. It seems to me that we have a delicate balance here where we have abandoned vehicles on the highway that are public safety, and the industry is providing a service by getting them off the highway. And in the case of an abandoned vehicle that is totaled, or that the operator is deceased, the tow company still has to take that vehicle, and who knows when they're going to get paid. So it seems to me there's a delicate balance here. I'd like to have your impression of that.
Thank you, Representative. I'm not quite sure what your question is, but I would say that I know that some of our members have dealt with situations in which they have to perform roadway cleanups. It's not as simple as just towing a car off the road. You dump a load of lumber across the highway. Somebody has to pay to have a crane come out and remove all of that. And all of that's money that's being pushed up front by the tow company. It's incurred by the tow company. So it's a cost to them. And they take on that cost. And I understand that it is, they volunteer to do that. But there's only so many of those that they can volunteer to do and not get paid for. And again, to prevent people from doing that type of behavior, you can't drive by a Walmart or a park and ride these days without seeing a camper or some vehicle abandoned there. And to prevent that behavior, the legislator has determined that it's a fine and a license suspension to deter that type of action.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman? From the industry standpoint, do you have an idea of what percentage that vehicles that are towed, the operator never gets reimbursed?
Thank you for your question. That I don't have an exact percentage, but I can say that in speaking one of our members a few weeks ago, to go through the abandoned motor vehicle process, there's a process in which they have to pay to advertise the vehicle through the newspaper. They have to pay the DMV a title fee to be able to process. They have to pay to get information. That there's fees that are assessed for that. And this individual paid over $30,000 last year for that. So I would say that given the fees that are attached to that and the fact that, they paid $30,000, over $30,000, I would say that there's a large likelihood of this type of behavior, especially when the cost of the vehicle or the value of the vehicle is much less than what they're going to recover.
Representative Scheer.
Is that $30,000 for one car?
Thank you for your question, sir. No, this is a culmination of over 1 year of all the vehicles that they towed that were abandoned.
And how much of that $30,000 was the cost of towing the vehicle off the public highway?
Yeah, the number I'm giving you is only the cost associated with the posting of the ad and the requirements for the paperwork needed to be able to get the title so that they can salvage the vehicle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the $30,000, in other words, is the operator's cost to dispose of the vehicle they're now stuck with after performing the tow.
That's correct, sir.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify on this bill who hasn't done so? Seeing none, I hereby close the public hearing. You want to introduce it? I don't, somebody's got it. I'm opening the executive session on Senate Bill 624. Is there anyone here to introduce the bill? Who's on it?
Rich.
Yeah, you gotta make him humble over that. Someone could, Representative Murray is going to be kind enough to introduce the bill for us because no one from the Senate is here.
Good morning, colleagues. For the record, my name is Representative Alessandra Murray, representing Hillsborough 20. I am introducing this bill on behalf of the prime sponsor. This is an act restricting access to certain hemp-derived products by setting penalties applicable to corporations and unincorporated associations for possession of certain hemp-derived products. It directs the liquor licensees to comply with the prohibition and amends the definition of hemp. I know there have been a couple amendments thus far and more to come, so I think I'll just stop there. And I will not be taking questions.
Thank you. Chair calls Michael Paralisi.
I'm new to this, so I appreciate you guys having me. And I just wanted to speak a little bit about this bill and what it would actually do. The way that it's set, even with this cap at that 1 milligram of THC per dose and 10 milligrams per package, would actually wipe out, a huge industry, number one. But even the safe, regulated products that are set forth, even from Charlotte's Web, which are all processed at an FDA regulated facility. Every item is tested over 60 times. Their products are on their tincture. I have an example, and I wish I had stuff to print out, but I just found out about this morning, so I literally hit the ground running.
If you go to the House website and go to standing committees, you can email the committee
Yeah.
if you want us to look at something.
Yeah. So what I have in front of me here, which is a lab result from one of Charlotte's Web's products that I have parents that use this for their children that have seizures. Okay. This package has a total of 247 milligrams of THC for the entire container. But what it does is it's 1.2 milligrams per serving. On this product right here, you would actually be getting, it is 78 milligrams of CBD, an entire milliliter, and you would get 2.47 milligrams of THC. That 2.4 milligrams of THC is not going to get you high when you have 78 milligrams of CBD. CBD counteracts the THC, so you will not get high from that. So even at this product right here would be unlawful. It would be banned. So let me tell you a little bit about my story and how this product has helped me over the years. I got into a bad motor vehicle accident many years ago. I ended up with disc problems in my back, sciatic nerve pain. I had shoulder surgery. Doctors wanted to pump me up with Percocets, Vicodins, a lot of stuff that my body didn't like and react well to. I used THC as a kid. I just never knew there was a medicinal benefit. I knew when I used it, it made me feel good. It made me laugh a little bit. It wasn't until my motor vehicle accident that I was left with restless legs, tossing and turning, couldn't sleep at night. When I used a little bit of THC, it was actually the first time that my body could actually relax. The problem was it wore off when I woke up. I could not use THC during the day. When I used it during the day, it gave me a little bit of anxiousness, heart palpitation, paranoia. I had a friend that gave me a bottle of this Charlotte's Web oil from Colorado. A month and a half of me using this, my pain levels dropped, didn't need any of the pills from the doctor, and I had no withdrawals coming off of it. This plant changed my life. The doctors wanted to do a surgery on my back, which I wasn't ready for. I did a lot of research. I found a lot of people came out with nerve damage. As a last resort, I would have done that surgery. But I played Operation as a kid, and I had that little game, and I'd go in and I'd pull out these little body parts, and without hitting the buzzer, I was great. But there was days that I hit the buzzer. So I wasn't willing to roll the dice at that point. I said, if I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to head to Foxwoods or Mohegan, and I'll roll the dice there. In over 10 years, I've not touched the Tylenol, no pain pill, no muscle relaxer, no ibuprofen, no Motrin, no nothing. I only use this plant. The CBD full spectrum world, it would be wiped out. So even products that are not psychoactive at all in any shape or form would be removed under this new guideline. So I definitely oppose this bill from going, and being set forth, because again, even at this revision, at 1 milligram of total THC per dose and 10 milligrams per container, that bottle that people use for their children that have seizures are not going to be accessed. They're not going to be able to have that. And where I am definitely forward on age restrictions, packaging, not attracting minors, all that stuff. Any of the synthetics, absolutely remove them. But removing the full spectrum plant the way that this was meant to be and nature intended it, I can't see that should go through. It's absolutely detrimental for people. You're taking this plant from me as well from being able to use it. I don't use opioids. I don't use that stuff. So in New Hampshire, where I live, and New Hampshire's a live free or die, what you're telling me with this bill is you want me to die. You don't want me to live. And I can't accept that. I cannot accept that. I'm open to questions if people have them. But I have to fight for this plant. I think that the way that it's going forward is not acceptable.
Thank you. I have a question. Are you not eligible for a medical marijuana card?
I don't want a medical marijuana
Does it
card.
explain the
This is
difference?
different anyways.
Explain the difference.
THC, number one, especially at higher milligrams, is not always the answer. CBD does a lot more medicinally than the THC. It just doesn't carry that psychoactive effect. Having more, the dispensaries, they don't focus on any CBD. They go for THC. That's really what they're focusing on. They're not focusing on a lot of different ratios. I've been into a lot of dispensaries. They don't have these products. They don't have the Charlotte's Web. They don't have those ratios. They go on either higher THC or a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not this, number one. And then on top of that, in this new one that's out here, it also says something about like that it's okay to have 10 milligrams of THC in a container as long as it's a topical or a tincture. Well, there's different delivery methods. So there's also capsules and there's gummies. Some people won't do a tincture because they don't like the way it tastes. We have capillary glands on our tongue. It's where they put the nitrate pill for people that have a heart attack. So it just absorbs to your bloodstream a little bit sooner, faster in the body, but also faster to leave the body. For people that have a hard time sleeping, don't want to do, like staying asleep, don't want a tincture because it leaves your body faster. I'm sure a lot of you may experience where you fall asleep at night, but 2-3 o'clock, you get up and you can't fall back asleep. A gummy would be a better method for that because it's longer for your body to digest and absorb. Whenever you chew on a gummy or swallow a pill, it takes your body anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to digest and absorb. And then the effects stick around a little bit longer, 6 to 8 hours. So the different delivery methods are also preference. Some people can't swallow pills. Some people, there's different methods for different people. But this plant is very big. Like a lot of people don't realize, obviously CBD is a cannabinoid, THC is a cannabinoid. There's 113 different cannabinoids that are found in the plant. Out of all the 113, THC is responsible for that euphoric effect. The other 112 can help with different medicinal benefits, but they're non-psychoactive. Our body actually creates these cannabinoids of our own. They don't create CBD, they don't create THC, but we have a whole system designed. It's called the endocannabinoid system. Our body has two main receptors, CB1 and CB2. We have receptors in our brain, our central nervous system, our spinal cord. They're in our eyes, our stomach, our heart, our pancreas, our digestive tract. It's in the bones, the blood vessels, our immune system. It's even found in the skin, testes, prostate, uterus, ovaries, adrenals, liver, upper airways, the thyroid, pituitary, the basal ganglia, and then it's found in the brainstem. So whenever we're consuming this plant regularly, internally, it's actually helping to send signals throughout our whole body, which can really help to regulate us can help to balance us out and put our body back into a homeostasis. This plant was made for our body. A lot of people don't realize, but the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper. And George Washington had a hemp farm, and all the livestock used to feed off of the hemp plant. And then we would eat them, and we were richer in CBD. Nowadays, we're filled with growth hormones and antibiotics and a lot of stuff our body doesn't need and react well to. So again, I am totally okay with, you know, the age restrictions and making sure that packaging is not attracting minors. I think that it should be 21 plus. If somebody wants it to buy it for their kid, totally fine. And I do agree with banning synthetic stuff where they're trying to extract and formulate it and stuff. I agree, but you know, THC, the Delta 9 is naturally present in the plant, and nature intended it a certain way.
Thank you. Questions? Yeah, go ahead. Representative Muse.
My name is Michael Paralisi.
Michael Paradisi?
Paralisi?
Paralisi,
Yeah.
thank you. And one quick follow-up question. Are you testifying as an individual or do you represent a business?
I am testifying for myself always first and foremost, but also I do run a business that I've operated for over 5 years.
Follow-up, please. And what is the business?
Hemp Connection. So I get a lot of health and wellness products, all derived from hemp.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And is it your testimony today that this bill as written or amended would have a significant negative impact on your business?
Absolutely. And my life
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard. The two are probably connected.
Well, absolutely. I after this plan had changed my life, I decided to research everything, and I wanted to be able to share this access with the world. What it did for me, I couldn't believe. I've lost so many people to, you know, heroin and the opioid epidemic, you know, oxys and all that type of stuff. And this, I've helped people come off of using that harmful stuff with no withdrawals using this, you know.
Yes, Representative.
And do you mind if I just
Subone-
take a sip? My mouth is like,
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, thank you for taking my question. Just curious, where is your business based out of?
Exeter, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions. You can get directions after.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Thank you.
Who's next? The chair calls the Honorable Jonah Wheeler.
Chairman Roy, members of the House Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. For the record, my name is Representative Jonah O'Ryan Wheeler, and it's always a pleasure to be back in my old committee. I'm here today as the member who introduced the further amendments to Senate Bill 624, and want to testify to say that what we did in amending this piece of legislation, I just want to, I guess, should begin with the story of Senate Bill 624. I believe that Senator Gannon wasn't able to testify today. I know Senate Judiciary was in session. 624 came to my committee, House Environment and Agriculture, dealing with the synthetic cannabis issue that we have here in our state. And what I mean by that is there are convenience stores, retail establishments that are, because of a loophole that was created by the Farm Bill in 2018, selling THCA and other synthetic cannabis products that are getting people high. Delta 9, Delta 8, you're probably familiar with these products insofar as we have all seen them advertised at convenience stores and others, packaged in a ways like Michael was mentioning towards children, where you've got Sour Patch Kids, Doritos, products that you think are regular junk food, but are in fact synthetic cannabis products that can get you high. And so Senate Bill 624 was introduced to deal with the gap in the law that allows for these establishments to sell those products. It's not particularly legal, but they have a gray area in which they are using to sell these products. And so hearing the merits behind 624 and knowing the dangers behind synthetic cannabis, when we talk about synthetic cannabis, we're not talking about the plant that Michael was so eloquently relaying the benefits of. We're talking about laboratory extracted chemical from the derived from the plant, but nonetheless laboratory extracted chemical that has effects that are far different than THC, which comes from the plant itself. And children are using these products. People as young as 12 years old are able to buy them because there are no age restrictions on who's able to buy these products, and they're marketed in a lot of ways towards children. And so I want the underlying merits of 624 to pass, and that's what I wanted when I first heard this legislation in my committee. But the bill as it was brought to us would have made all CBD medical products in this state illegal. It would have overturned the decriminalization statute that we have in 300 chapters of our RSAs, making cannabis in effect entirely illegal. And it would have added a personal penalty for children who happen to purchase this, meaning that these children would be subject to a misdemeanor, etc. These were unworkable elements of this piece of legislation, not just for the committee, but as we are all aware, having dealt with legislation like this for the entire House. And so what we did on Environment and Agriculture was craft as best we could the amendment which passed on the House floor 2 Thursdays ago to this piece of legislation, which would protect those medical products while also dealing with the synthetic cannabis issue. And the committee worked very closely with the chief of the law enforcement division of the Liquor Commission, Chief Armaganian, and his partner Danielle here, who I'm sure will testify after me, to what they are trying to do here in fixing this gap in the law and making sure that our children are protected. And I had a conversation with one of the members of our committee, is the representative for Michael. And so he wasn't able to come, didn't know that we had a hearing, but did let his representative know his concerns with the piece of legislation. But I hadn't heard those concerns until after our committee vote. But in hearing those concerns, as Michael relayed to you today, that's where this this amendment to the piece of legislation was created, that remits a 1 milligram per dose and 10 milligram per container limit on full spectrum CBD products. So there are broad spectrum CBD products derived from hemp that have no THC in them, and there are full spectrum CBD products that contain trace amounts of THC. Now, I'd like to read from, I don't want to negate the passionate testimony from before, but I do want to read from a place. I was doing some research before leaving today. That's why I was a few minutes late. And I want to read from Mary Jane's Bakery Company.com. Hemp-derived CBD topicals, and this same sentence also applies to the tinctures as well, but this is about topicals in particular, are formulated to stay legal as hemp-derived products. So the THC concentration remains very low. A typical application, P to quarter-sized amount, roughly 0.5 to 2 grams or milliliters, depending on the product, usually delivers well under 1 to 2 milligrams of THC, often much less. Even in a high-potency, full-spectrum jar, examples of 1,000 to 4,000 milligrams total CBD, the THC is a tiny fraction because of the 0.3% cap. And that's the federal farm bill cap that's there on the full spectrum products. It would generally require a large portion of the entire container at once to approach the higher THC amounts. So there are products, the industry is clever, there are a lot of products out there. This amendment, and I would prefer cannabis be legal. You all know that. I testified to a constitutional amendment which allowed for the possession of this product. But I also want to deal with the synthetic cannabis issue and get the best piece of law out that we can. And having dealt with this for the last month, I'm fully of the belief, having worked with liquor, the ATCs, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders, that this one to 10 milligram per dose cap is the best text that will come, barring the inexpedient to legislate motion on this piece of legislation. I could go on, but that's, I guess, where I would end. This is an amendment that I have a couple of people who I know are willing to introduce to your committee in the executive session. I know you've got an amendment to the bill that I also support around xylazine as well. And so we'll hear that, and I'm going to testify in support of that later on. But this is, I think, an important carve-out which protects the overwhelming majority of the CBD medical products in our state.
Thank you, Representative. Could you, if you would be so kind, address some of the concerns we heard from the citizen who testified regarding products that he feels will be made illegal? I'm kind of confused about,
Well,
what are we talking about?
He's correct. There are products that contain, like he was saying about Charlotte's Web or some similar products. There are CBD oil tinctures that contain 70 milligrams of THC total. And they won't get you high because the overwhelming amount of CBD, which is, if you think about like sugar or something along those lines, sugar affects your body less when it is encapsulated in fat. When you've got a donut with a bunch of fat on it and you eat it, that sugar is going to hit you less than when you take a pixie stick. Yeah, there you go. Then when you take a pixie stick and you just take a shot of sugar like that sugar is going to rush to your system. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to start using the words soluble and things like that. But there you go. I'm glad that worked. And so there are products like that would not be, that this legislation would make illegal, that would not make people high. And I do ideally, what I believe should happen, being honest, is that this legislation should be amended, or rather the statute that this legislation will put in place should be amended in the next legislative session, where we come back. Part of what I've understood in looking at these statutes over the course of dealing with this piece of legislation is the hemp statutes in general, because we are relying on federal work that has been done so frivolously, are completely hard to understand, not workable in a lot of ways. So we should come back and make sure that these work for the patients in our state and the enforcement officers who are trying their best to deal with products which we have marked as illegal. And so the thing that he was bringing up is true. There are products like that will be made illegal, but from what I understand, based off of the research that I was able to do, the overwhelming majority of the full spectrum CBD products, and I believe this is why we haven't had opposition from the other marijuana policy advocates here in this state, is because these products overwhelmingly have less than 10 milligrams of THC in them. And that's why I used 10 milligrams as the marker here. And I also just want to mention that in terms of the corner office doesn't want to sign any piece of legislation that legalizes any amount of THC. And so 10 was both the marker that I found that contained and covered the majority of the products that our patients in our state are using, the overwhelming majority, and also the one that I knew that would we be able to make sure the corner office was okay with in terms of their opinion on cannabis. And so it's not perfect in my mind. I agree with where Michael is coming from, but in terms of how we're going to make this sausage work, this is where I think we're at.
So in your opinion, if we were to just limit it to the age and the packaging, that wouldn't be enough to pass the other body. So that's why this is necessary.
In part, yes, but there's also limiting it to the age and the packaging doesn't deal with the products that the bill was introduced to deal with. I mean, it would leave these products out in the market, which is what their concern is.
Representative Scheer, I see you.
And is that concern, and maybe other witnesses will reflect this, but is that concern beyond there's a concern for people using these products even if they're over 21? Am I hearing that correctly? Or I guess a version of what the chair has asked is, why don't we just ban the use of these products, the sale of these products, or use of these products by people under the age of 21? Doesn't that address everything?
I think what the THCA and these other synthetic cannabis products are both not legal or illegal. And they fall, in many ways, they should fall under, if the legislature has marked cannabis as illegal, as cannabis. And so what the retail stores are doing right now, and I think liquor will speak more eloquently to this, is the fact that the Farm Bill legalized certain elements of hemp that they are using to now sell intoxicating products at gas stations and retail stores. And so I personally believe that people over the age of 21 should be able to use intoxicating products. But the state has statutes in it saying otherwise, and as do the federal government. And so in terms of the enforcement agency's ability to coherently deal with what the legislature has tried to put in front of it, I'd say that we should put these products under the same sorts of rules that are there for intoxicating products, rather than piecemealing legalization by legalizing these products or allowing the sale of them, rather, for people over the age of 21, and trying to move forward from there.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for taking my question. I have two. I feel like we've kind of been talking about this, but is there like strong enough of a reason to take action on this now, considering the federal government is already like reviewing and amending all this stuff? You know, there was a cap put in the big beautiful bill that is now being like revisited to, you know, change what they thought actually went too far. In my opinion, I feel like we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit and should wait and see what happens federally before we're passing something else, especially if you're already suggesting that we would return and amend this again next year. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that.
Well, I just don't like to rest my laurels on the federal government, especially in the place and moment in time where it's in right now. I mean, we are also a legislature, and we have statutes that aren't properly dealing with this situation right now. And so I think it's incumbent on us to make our statutes as proper as they can, and I think this legislation moves us forward on that. I do believe that this is a longer term project, in that it's not going to take one session to make the statutes work correctly. But the federal government right now, I think those bills in a lot of ways are too big and too beautiful. You know, they really are just piecemeal work done by lobbyists in a lot of ways, and it's not that people with expertise are putting forward the best piece of product like we are, I think, here. They have industries that say we need this text. It gets into the massive bill and then passed through reconciliation and all these other things. So I don't like to rely on that process, and I'm not as confident as some of others who I know we've talked to that some of these changes which we're looking at might happen in the federal government, although I hope they do.
Follow up.
Thank you. The second question, I don't know if you'll know this because I don't know if it went to your committee first or not, but there was SB 461 that amended the definition of hemp already. Do you know how that plays into this at all, or does it?
So it's similar, but it's a different thing, and I think that liquor will be able to speak more eloquently to that. I think that came to your committee and not ours. There was some shenanigans, as I know you know, Mr. Chairman, with the introductions of these bills, the assignment to the bills of which committees they went to and other things. But
No comment.
Seeing that the per container limit that would actually take effect in November, assuming that this law actually takes effect in November, is 0.4, and that I think this bill it's 10 milligrams, correct?
my amendment has a
10
exemption for 10 milligrams per container
Okay.
that applies to anything that's not drinkable, smokable, or edible.
So given the fact that this bill would take effect in January and the federal law may take effect in November, are we, I guess from the standpoint of people who are actually trying to run a business and do the right thing, how are they supposed to do that? If they have it if we have it set at one level in the state and the federal government has it set at a different level, and these changes are basically coming almost at the same time.
It's a good question. If this committee determines that this piece of legislation is more apt to be an expedient to legislate, then so be it. But I think that what we have here is a piece of product that's pretty clear to understand, and resting on the laurels of the federal government is just not what I think we should do.
Do we know what's coming from the federal
We
government?
don't. That's
I mean, because the representative said November. What's coming in November?
the executive order was signed. That's what we know.
What does
And
that do?
That reschedules cannabis to Schedule 3 from 1, and it also I think part of what the interpretation people are looking at right now is there are around 250 some odd products. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but there are some 250 CBD medical products that people are saying that executive order made now legal. And so
Would that impact the things that are in your amendment? Or we don't know.
This is what I'm saying in terms of I really don't want to rely on the federal government.
Yeah.
It's so piecemeal. It's so confusing.
Has it been left up to the DEA or the FDA?
I don't know the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
so, okay. All right, good. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Representative Saubon Deschanel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. You mentioned a few weeks ago that, you mentioned that we voted on this bill, the 64 on the House Fourth Amendment. Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify.
Yep. On the consent calendar, but yes.
Okay, that's how. Okay.
If I just may add one last final thing, Mr. Chairman. I wholeheartedly agree with Michael in terms of, I think that this bill is ideally, but we've got, I think, a good amendment on xylazine here on this vehicle. And if this is a vehicle moving forward, this is the text that should move forward with it on hemp.
Thank you. We'll discuss that during executive. Your bill, I believe, your amendment will be introduced by a member of the committee when we get to the executive session. The chair calls Kate Frey. Kate Frey.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Kate Frey. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy at New Futures. Our organization works to improve the health and wellness of all New Hampshire residents. And in this role, we work with policymakers, stakeholders, and partners to prevent alcohol and drug problems in the state. We support SB 624 as it will strengthen New Hampshire's ban on intoxicating hemp products in New Hampshire. So just to provide some background, there already is a law that bans these products in New Hampshire that was created in 2023. What this does is form more of a bright line of enforcement because these products continue to be sold. So it introduces new regulations regarding the possession and the sale of hemp-derived products. It prohibits the sale of any hemp products level exceeding 0.3 dry weight. And this language is in line with federal language that already passed in the Big Beautiful Bill. So there's some confusion about changes. This law mirrors the federal law, which has already passed. It goes into effect November 2026. So that's the difference here. So the language really mirrors it. So this discussion about they may change, it passed. It's just that it goes into effect at that point.
If I may interrupt, because I have a question. If that is the case, will the products that the owner of the business, Michael, I believe his name was, will that impact the products he's selling?
It could still impact
Or
because
would it?
it's federal law.
Okay.
However, I did see this amendment and I do understand Michael's concern. I do think this amendment that addresses it is a way to deal with that and could help. I just want to clarify that it's already passed in federal law. So the language that you have in front of you without the amendment is just mirroring what's in federal law. So I just want to back up too, and included in my testimony, you know, these products have been, intoxicating hemp products have been created through this federal loophole since 2018. They mirror candy. They are designed to attract kids. They are found right now in convenience stores and gas stations. This is very similar to what we discussed a few weeks ago on SB 557 regarding kratom. And so the attempt for this bill is to get to actually what Michael spoke of too, these synthetic products, these products that are targeted towards kids. What this does is just similar to what was discussed with 557, that it allows the Division of Liquor Enforcement to pull these products to address with their licensees to ensure these products are not continuing to be sold in that avenue. So it gets these products off the shelves in New Hampshire. And I just do want to say that I do understand the concern around the CBD, the Charlotte Web oil. If the committee pursues this amendment, I think that's a way to address it. But I would be very clear that what you have in front of you is already what's passed in federal law. And again, the ban on these products is already law in New Hampshire. This is just more the enforcement tool. The Division of Liquor Enforcement can speak to that greater.
Thank you. Seeing no questions, thank you for your testimony. The chair calls Matt Simon.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable committee members. I'm sorry you have to deal with me yet again this session. For the record, Matt Simon. I work for Granite Leaf Cannabis, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about this bill. I'm going to try to spend my time to fill in some gaps in knowledge and help you understand what you're dealing with here and help you make informed decisions. Our position on this bill has been neutral throughout. I'm going to remain neutral today. We're all here trying to figure out how to clean up a policy mess that has been foisted on us as a result of our dysfunctional Congress, first passing hemp legalization in 2018 and then failing to do any regulation. And then, as you've heard last fall, it actually wasn't the one big beautiful bill. It was the continuing resolution, just so we're clear on that, that refunded the government, but it included this language, which did pass Congress, does not take effect until November. They did this without hearings or without input from knowledgeable people. So the solution that they passed made a lot of people very angry. I wanted them to do something, but I didn't want them to do exactly what they did. And we're now experiencing the fallout of that choice. So back to the high level, when we talk about the loopholes, there are actually really three of them. The first was the synthetics, the Delta 8 stuff. So not that vape, but this vape became illegal in New Hampshire a few years ago because it's a Delta 8 synthetic product. I do not believe these other products are currently illegal, but it is very much a gray area. In fact, the fact we don't agree on whether they're legal or not indicates that there's a lot of confusion here. So these are illegal. This is a THCA product that is inhalable. So one note I'll make, if you're going to proceed with the Wheeler Amendment, you may want to add the word inhalable, because this is not a smokable product. It is a vape. So it is an inhalable THC product that is very intoxicating. That just as a side. Where we get complicated is the third loophole. THCA should count towards THC. That's in both of the bills and the federal law. Where we run into trouble is with this 0.4 milligrams per container. So as soon as that passed, I started hearing from hemp licensees that was going to be very problematic and was going to result in some of their non-intoxicating products being illegal. So the issue now is we have this massive hemp industry. We have some products that are incredibly problematic. So the handout that I've given you, I led with one that I found online. It's 466 milligrams of THC in each of these gummies, 14,000 milligrams per container. And these are the kind of products that would never be legal in an adult use market. The caps for edibles are usually 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams per serving.
If I could ask a question,
Sure.
because I don't want to get lost in this, but 466 milligrams, I mean, that can't be the same as the other THC because it would knock you out, would it not? I mean, it's
It
gotta
would
be a
knock
different-
me out, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I've been consuming cannabis for like 3 decades, and for me, an edible dose is between 10 milligrams and 25 milligrams.
So does it have the same impact as the THC sold in a dispensary?
Some people tolerate edible cannabis much differently than others. There's actually, some people don't process edible cannabis. They can eat 100 milligrams and have no issue. They lack an enzyme in their liver that allows them to process it, so it doesn't go to their brain. Yeah, no, cannabis is complicated. It's a good question. Next product on the back page are ice cream cups. This was a photo taken by one of my colleagues at a retailer in New Hampshire. Just little cups of ice cream. Each one is 75 milligrams of Delta-9 THC. Again, far in excess of what would be legal in an adult use market. And then at the bottom, to sort of illustrate a less problematic product, these have become very prevalent. 5 milligram THC seltzers. There was actually a bill in the Senate this year that would have legalized and regulated them. The Senate killed it. So New Hampshire has never decided to make THC legal in any form except through the medical program. The other issue is the bad actors in this space are not in New Hampshire. They're in other states. I don't know of any New Hampshire hemp licensee that is producing high THC products and trying to sell them as hemp. It's coming in from other states, and as Liquors mentioned previously, the more other states crack down, that product has to go somewhere. New Hampshire's not illegal yet. Well, ship it to New Hampshire and sell it there. So we're seeing even more of an influx of the most problematic products. Finally, last week, the Trump administration, or actually Trump himself, posted on Truth Social. I am calling on Congress to update the law to ensure that Americans can continue to access the full spectrum CBD products that they've come to rely on and that help them, while preserving Congress's intent to restrict the sale of products that pose health risks. We must get this done right and fast, especially for those who say that CBD helps them. So we've heard from the administration they're going to actively lobby Congress to try to change the 0.4 milligram provision. Probably not change it a whole lot because they still want intoxicating products to be illegal. But I don't know what they're even suggesting. And we've tried to find out and don't know. So I would suggest that whatever this committee, this body does or does not do with SB 624, we're going to be back here next year after we see how this is played out federally. The question is, do we do something now or don't we? That's your job, not mine. I'm here to try to help you understand it, like I said.
Would it not be better for us, considering everything that's going on, to be, I mean, it's almost like a first aid, stop the bleeding, to ban it, the 21 part. I mean, that seems reasonable to me, that if you can go into a store and buy these actually delicious looking ice cream cups, the kids can buy these. So if this were made, you have to be 21, that would at least stop the bleeding as far as these products getting into the hands of children. Is that true or no?
I would say at minimum there should be an age restriction, and the rest is a policy choice for the legislature.
I don't want to make too many policies that are just going to be unwritten in 6 months by somebody else at the federal level. But thank you. Did you have more?
I mean, I've always got more.
Wow.
I will clarify ATCs. So we do produce a broad range of products, some of which include the other cannabinoids in various ratios. We would like to produce a much broader range of those products, and we've had bills the last 2 years that would have made it easier for us to do that. The problem is we have to grow all of our cannabinoids indoors under high intensity light. We're not allowed to purchase hemp oil for from hemp producers. So we had a bill last year, the House passed, the Senate killed, that would have enabled us to do that. There was a Senate version of it this year that the Senate has killed. So we're not allowed, but it is not a lack of desire on our part. That's what we have patients asking us for more full spectrum products. We have medical providers asking us to make more full spectrum products. We've put in the bills that would make that economically feasible, and they have not become law. So we hear from patients all the time who say the same things that the gentleman behind me has said about their experiences with cannabis. I want sensible cannabis policies across the board. We've created massive divisions by drawing a line between hemp and cannabis, by drawing a line between recreational and medical. There's a lot of division when we're all talking about the same plant and that people are generally using it for the same reasons. So, yeah, I think the question for this committee is, do you pass this now, knowing that it would be definitely problematic for some folks, but would get some problematic products out of the gas stations and convenience stores that are there right now? Or not? Your call.
I noticed the picture you gave us. If you look closely at the fine print on the back, it says this must be 21 or over to consume. But yet at the gas station or wherever this was, they'll sell it to anyone. Is that correct?
We do not have a New Hampshire law that requires sales to be to 21 and over.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you. And the chair calls Danielle and Mark from the Liquor Enforcement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable committee members. For the record, my name is Chief Mark Armaganian. I'm the director of the Liquor Commission's enforcement and licensing. It's been a minute since I've been before you. In a previous job, I was the bureau commander of the state police's Investigative Services Bureau, which encompasses the other end of this. So, and good to see Judge again, as always. What you will find here, Mr. Chairman, is a collaboration. There are so many things that all the committee members have brought up, to include Michael, Kate Fry, Representative Wheeler, of course, Matt, that are reasonable. One thing that resonated with me as we all worked on this diligently since inception, when Senator Gannon brought it forward, and then, of course, Representative Wheeler got involved and did the tweaks in it that we thought could get across the finish line. In its totality, all of us agreed that this could be a product that could get across the bill. I will say that we lived the Farm Bill in Congress of 2019. It took up until this year to actually close that loophole. So we're in a very similar place. We, as Representative Wheeler has brought up, we don't know. We just don't know what they're going to do on the federal level. But we do know one thing: people are negatively being affected by these products in our licensed establishments, and that, I think, gets us, as Danielle has eloquently testified before you last week or the week prior, and will testify today on. That's where we are today. Is we're trying to get the best product across the finish line, but we're trying to make the most impact at the same time, get the biggest bang for the buck, for a lack of a better term. So again, with me today is Deputy Chief Danielle Elston, Deputy Director of the same entity. She's our subject matter expert, whether by choice or not. She was thrown into this and can answer a lot of your questions. And please don't hold, I know you won't hold back, but please, anything in your mind that pops up, we have dealt with it along this little journey that we've been on, and I think Danielle can bring some clarity to a lot of the questions you have in your head. So I give it over to Danielle. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you. To clarify the crux of the Farm Bill, one slogan that's used in the industry, it was created for rope, not dope. The Farm Bill was created to allow hemp to be used for textiles, paper, construction materials, biofuel, and some health products. It was never meant to infiltrate the industry the way it did. One thing that I do want to make clear is it is here. It is in New Hampshire. These products are in New Hampshire. With the permission of the chair, I could show you some of the products that we've taken out of our convenience stores here. And when we talk about kids, these are sour gummies. This is Sour Patch. These are what's on the shelves next to the real candy. Star Buds, set of Starbursts. These are Trolley gummies. These are 600 milligrams of THC in these products. I will not, no. And to be clear, these are from an adjudicated case.
Can we have a vote on that?
So the real reason that we came into this space is we started seeing these in the stores. This started with a complaint that our division received from a local police department who dealt with a 12-year-old who had purchased these gummies from a store and consumed the entire package and actually ended up in the hospital overdosing. That's how these came on our radar. It's very similar. One thing that has happened too is our liquor licensees deal in Title 13. That's where all their laws live. That's where all the regulation happens. That's what tells them what they can and can't do. This statute lives in the hemp statutes. So we have a definition. It's on the books, and that's where it is. That's all it is. It's a definition. It doesn't tell you what it means, what you can do, who can have it, who can't have it. There is no regulation in New Hampshire on hemp itself. We have, when the Farm Bill went into place, states could choose whether to regulate hemp on the state level or to default to the federal government to do that. New Hampshire has defaulted to the federal government. It was originally made for hemp cultivators to use this materials for those products that I told you. So here we are now in 2026, and we have synthetic, THCA, Delta-8, all these products on the market. One thing that's interesting to know from the licensee's perspective, a lot of these products say Farm Bill compliant on it. They are Farm Bill compliant because they have less than 0.3% Delta-9, but they have packages that are 600 milligrams of THC Delta-8 or THCA. The other thing that's interesting about these products is they are legal in other states. Several states have adopted hemp regulation products, or they have legalized cannabis, which, you know, some have wrapped hemp into that. So these are not products where a scary guy is showing up in a white van in the back of your store and unloading these products for you. They're legitimate businesses. They're legitimate businessmen coming in saying, you can sell these products. We have encountered distributors who are unfamiliar with New Hampshire law, who don't also understand what can and can't be sold in this state. So it is a problem in terms of just what is allowed for the licensees and what is not allowed for licensees. You'll see in a section of this bill, it specifically directs licensees that they have to comply with this in Title 13. So it points them in the right direction to say, this exists, you shouldn't have these products. But overall, a lot of these products are coming in, they're geared towards these kids. And that is the main goal of this bill, is these are on our shelves. This is from a New Hampshire store.
If it's not illegal, how is it that you've got a case and you've seized those products?
So a lot of these, so New Hampshire does have a little bit of a stricter law than most states. So we don't allow any isomer variant in our hemp laws. That lives there.
That's a synthetic we're talking?
That's a synthetic. So that does cover some of these Delta-8s, other things. But again, nothing directs the licensees to this. We do messaging with our licensees. We send out industry circulars. We include it in our training, but they're not required to attend the training. They're not required to read the industry circular. So getting the messaging out there is tough when it's not in a Title 13 law. So the New Hampshire law, again, we created a semi-good law. That's great. We now have new products in. We have THCA, there's THCO. We just saw some THCH the other day that, again, does it meet the isomer variant? Doesn't.
Explain the THCH, all these THCs, do they all have the same intoxicating effect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the one that's banned that you actually need to get a medical card to use, gets you just as intoxicated as the stuff in this ice cream and then those products there.
To a point, yes.
Okay. All right. Representative Chair.
So I'll go back to a question I asked a prior witness, but a little context. So the recent executive order from the president, as I understand what a prior witness said, the amendment to the SB 624 as it exists, put aside the amendment proposal, that reflects what's in the executive order?
Correct.
So, in the interim, it sounds like things are changing. Whether we want to say the hell with the federal government or not, the federal government exists and is going to, in some fashion, weigh in. We don't necessarily know how. Why not, in the short term, just ban the sale of by licensees of any of these products? That seems like a simple short-term Band-Aid, for lack of a better word, until we have a better sense of what the field's going to look like in a longer term. What do you think of that possibility?
It's certainly an avenue to go. I think, unlike what we've seen a little bit as we discussed with Kratom, the hemp industry is significant. I don't know the impact that would have on the legitimate products that you've heard some testimony on. There are, again, yes, our concern is the licensees. That's where we stand. That's where we're seeing them. That's where the kids are getting them from. They're walking into a convenience store looking to get some soda and some Starburst, and they're leaving with soda and a THC product.
Follow up?
Just if I could in between, to follow your question, if we banned it for just being sold at licensees, what would stop me from opening a Sour Patch store tomorrow and just selling that? You have no jurisdiction over me.
Yeah, but
Follow. Go ahead.
to address that, my suggestion, and I'm entertaining and thinking about, is ban it for being sold for anyone over 21. And as I understand it, the core concern is with people, under the age of 18, certainly, using these products. That's the core concern we're trying to address in some fashion.
That's certainly one of the major categories for us that we're trying to address, is that there are loopholes that allow these products in. Again, New Hampshire doesn't have a terrible law. We actually have any other isomer variant, which allows us to deal with some of the other deltas that are coming in. But as these, as the industry progresses, they're getting more and more clear. So the THCA is certainly one. You'll see that changes the definition. That's one we would like to include in the definition. But yes, one of the main concerns for us, one of the boxes we definitely want to check, is the youth access.
Thank you.
It seems like we're playing whack-a-mole with somebody with a chemistry set who keeps coming up with a new definition that we didn't include in one of our laws. And it's difficult because if we do this and then tomorrow there's a THC 6, I don't know. They keep finding ways to reconstitute chemicals to make themselves outside of the laws that we draw so narrowly.
It's a good point, Mr. Chairman, if I can, just add a little bit more clarity to this. Those of us that were in the business back in the day, back in 2014, we dealt with spice, and it was all over the news, and I remember testifying to this in the other committee. This has the same dynamics, where as soon as DEA at the time got in front of a certain molecular mixture, another one was produced. And we were constantly, of course, running the state police drug unit, we were constantly behind at that point. And there was really no way to get in front of it. And then we ended up with a huge opioid problem. Which was the inception of Granite Hammer, which all we were doing is trying to create a pause for treatment and recovery to catch up. So this has those dynamics, and that's what has us concerned, because as the representative just said, You can very easily look at an age restriction here, but these products are actually negatively affecting all of us. And again, being a resident of this state, a transplant of this state for many years, I'll switch over to my homeowner hat for a second. We've never worried about what the feds say or don't say. We are very concerned, as you all are, on keeping our state, the three corners of our state, and keeping the 603 safe. And to have somebody outside of the corners of this state making our decisions for us, me personally and professionally, it pulls on the heartstrings. And so we have asked this collaboration of different disciplines. And we can actually say with a little bit of a smile on our face, we don't always agree on everything. And we got here. And is it perfect? It'll probably get us 3/4 of the way there. As Danielle has testified previously, and was testified in the Senate. But at the same time, it's a start. And if it does take another 6 years to reel this in at a federal level, who knows what catastrophically can happen in this state. And we don't want that. We don't want that to happen on our watch, to be quite honest about it. We've committed to this. I changed jobs for this. And I believe in the mission and the vision here, along with the governor's office, is literally, let's protect the 603. And we live that every day of our lives. So this was a great group to bring together, and I'm glad it hit the other committee before hitting here, because it created another perspective. And now that we're here, the questions that are being asked are tremendous. So hopefully we're giving some clarity to this, but this is spice all over again.
Although at the same time, I'm empathetic to the gentleman who testified, who's running a perfectly legal business that we're preparing to put him out of business overnight. And it's not his products that are really the problem.
Absolutely. Michael brings up a great point. I've never met him before, walked by him just now. And I think the cutout of this proposed amendment that Representative Wheeler is speaking of has everybody in mind, and can get us a majority of the way there. I think at the end of the day, we'll let the dust settle on this. To be quite honest, at the other job, I'd come before you with a bill, and that was it. We'd make a decision on it and we'd move forward. I will tell you, and now it's almost been a decade, 9 years here. Every session, we're back here again on different stuff. So it doesn't create any anxiety with us if we have to come back here and put our best foot forward again after we put these collective minds together. And I always say I surround myself with the smart kids in the room. This group's a good group. And they have New Hampshire's best interest in mind.
I'm almost tempted to put in a bill to create an emerging intoxicants standing commission that has these, so that we're ahead of these things. The fact that, we have Kratom, we've got this, and I guarantee you there'll be something else next year. And if we can have this information as it's emerging and get legislation ahead of it before we have people that are suffering. Because I'm tired of, like I said, playing whack-a-mole with these new chemicals. So I don't think you answered my question though about the gentleman's, his business. The products he's talking about aren't the issue though, are they? I mean, so that's what I'm wondering. Why is it impacting his particular business if it's not what we're really concerned about?
I think it's based in the definition. So again, the amendment that Representative Wheeler is presenting, gets you most of the way there for those products. I can't speak specifically to all the products that he's selling there. Again, the intent of the bill, as far as we're concerned, was to deal with these products that we're seeing in the licensed establishments.
Didn't need to discuss that. Representative Muse.
My guess is that we're not the only state that's dealing with this right now. So as you look across other states and what they're doing, where are we, in terms of what other states are doing, and have you seen other approaches out there that seem to be working, or is this really something that you think is us putting our best foot forward as a state?
There's a variety. States have done it in several different ways. There's several states who have banned hemp products. There's several states who do a full regulatory process of it. They tax it. They, license it. There's states that, most of the legal states with cannabis either have their own hemp programs or they've reeled it into part of the cannabis program. So in terms of the spectrum, there's a variety here. This for us, again, our concern is it's here now. Is we're here. And that's the big thing. It's not emerging, it's not coming, it's here, it's in the stores, and the kids are buying it. So again, from our perspective is we need to point the licensees in the right direction of what they can and can't do, because it lives in a statute that they're not looking at. So language in Title 13 helps us there. And we want, to close this loophole the best we can so that it's clear to the licensees what they can and can't have, and we can enforce it properly.
And I know one of the issues Representative Roy has raised is this would only impact licensees, what we're passing here. What the federal government is doing would go beyond impacting licensees. Is that correct? That would actually control the amount that can actually be put in these products at a federal level.
Correct. And just to clear, this bill does change the definition of hemp, so it wouldn't necessarily just impact the licensees. The portion of the licensees that we see is including them complying with the provisions of the hemp statute in the title that they deal with. So that's the impact that the licensees have now from our perspective. But this does change the definition of hemp in the state.
Thank you.
So if someone sells neither tobacco or alcohol, they wouldn't be under your jurisdiction per se, but if they were selling something that was banned in this bill, that regular law enforcement could deal with that. Is that correct? Maybe.
So, go ahead.
It's in the hemp statute. So legal, illegal, who regulates the hemp statute is the question.
Is it a criminal law? It doesn't have any criminal implications? Well, then nobody does, I guess. Is Representative Chair.
Just as a part of this conversation, on page 2 of the foundational SB 624, lines, the Roman numeral 3 addresses licensee, salesperson, nor any other person. So it's not just licensees. Put aside the penalty aspect.
That's for the age restriction, correct?
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you both very much, and I know you'll be available if we have more questions. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to testify hasn't done so? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. We're going to take, let's take 20 minutes to caucus, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about whether or not to begin executing this or to hold off. Just to be clear, we only have till the 7th to get this out, so we don't have time to really mess around too much. So we don't necessarily have to exec it today, but the latest by next Tuesday. If you don't want to come back next week, then we should deal with it today.
For what it's worth, I'm going to bring it up at our caucus, but it'd be helpful if your caucus thought about just doing the age restriction and nothing else as an option.
We'll discuss that among other things. I'm reopening the executive session on, actually, no, I haven't even started that yet. All right, we're going to start with SB 617, and I'm going to recognize myself. I have to introduce it.
Okay.
And then that's how we do it, right? You don't do a hearing, you
Because
actually.
it's a non-germane amendment.
Delay my last, opening the public hearing on non-germane amendment SB to SB 624. And I will recognize myself to introduce or talk about the amendment. We passed it out to everybody earlier. The issue we had, there was a xylazine bill brought by the Senate, and it came to an unfortunate demise in the Agriculture Committee. And it sought to schedule xylazine along with fentanyl and other drugs. And apparently there wasn't much appetite for that. I don't think personally that they understood the level that xylazine is impacting people on the street. What's happening is dealers who sell fentanyl are taking xylazine and they're cutting the fentanyl with it. So if you go buy a gram of fentanyl, it may be only half a gram of fentanyl and half a gram of xylazine. And that's what's causing these horrible sores in the users, and it's causing horrible sickness and permanent scarring. It's very bad. It's designed for horses. And unfortunately, people don't know that it's in there until after they start getting sick. And it's prevalent in a lot of the fentanyl that's being captured by the state police in arrests and things of that nature. So it was an important public safety bill. So I thought about it and I said, okay, let's make it clear, because there was pushback about, veterinarians need it. And sometimes it's actually given to people to administer themselves to their horses to relax or whatever. We don't want to catch them up. And we also didn't want to target users possessing the stuff, because they might not even know that they were possessing it. So the bill, the amendment I have here, it targets exactly who we needed to target. It's criminal adulteration and distribution of adulterated controlled substances. It's people who have fentanyl together with xylazine. There's no legitimate reason for a veterinarian to have fentanyl. They should not object to this. This targets the people who are mixing it, or the people who are prepared to mix it. If it's together, this would be a felony enhancement. So, do we have anyone signed up to testify on this? Jonah, would you like to testify? Yeah, go ahead. Technically, I guess I should have been up there, but I'm so caught up, I'm confused by THC, I don't even know where I am.
I know, we're all a little high after that conversation, the last couple of bills, but there you go. Well, you've got a high tolerance, I guess, Mr. Scheer, but that's all right. I wanted to testify as a member of Environment and Agriculture again, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, when this piece of legislation, I saw it on the House calendar when it was first assigned to my committee. I went to the Speaker's office. I said, why? This is a criminal justice piece of legislation. He said, read the bill. And I did. And it had a reference to veterinarians. And so therefore it came to us. If I was Speaker, frankly, it would have come to you with us as the second committee, but nonetheless, that's not how it went. And so we, I think, need to deal with the xylazine issue in this state. When I was first on criminal justice, we heard testimony about this product eating people's flesh alive. And so I think, Mr. Chairman, what you have done here is craft a fantastic piece of legislation that deals with the concerns of the House Environment and Agriculture Committee and the other members of the House who were concerned, and also protects our citizens here in this state from a dangerous, dangerous substance that's being mixed with fentanyl.
Thank you. Anyone else signed up to testify? I'm going to go right into exec if you want. Yeah. With that, I close the public hearing on the non-germane amendment. And now we'll take up the executive session on the underlying, actually, no, I have to introduce the amendment. It's getting confusing. I open the executive session on Senate Bill 617, and I recognize myself to introduce the amendment, which is amendment number, hold on a second, I've got too many pieces of paper. 1755.
Second.
Seconded by Representative Prue. Again, I just described what this does, and I don't think I need to describe it again. It's open for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss? Representative Scher, you wanted to talk?
Yeah, I think the issue of what to do with impounded cars has been a problem. You know, what I have seen and talked.
Hold on, we're talking about the amendment right now.
The amendment is 1755.
Yeah, the xylazine piece of it.
Oh, we're talking about.
Oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong. See what happened to me?
You did you said 617, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I did. All right, yeah, too many samples. All right, well, go ahead, continue.
It's important that we do something with the impoundment of cars, because people have been, people that criminal defense lawyers have represented have gotten their cars impounded for one reason or another, and the outrageous fees have been charged, and they can never get their car back. It may be a beater of a car, but it works for them and gets them to their job. But at the rates that some of these businesses were charging, it smelled more like a camp. So as a general proposition, I'm supportive of this. I am just profoundly uncomfortable with using the authority of the state to help them collect debt.
And that's why I changed it to non-renew from suspension, because I agree.
Even that bothers
The issue
me.
is that it's a state-driven thing. In other words, this doesn't apply to tows if you call because you have a flat. This is something where the state, either the cities or towns, requested the tow, and without that tow, the road could be closed.
Yeah, I mean, an analogy, it's not a perfect analogy, but analogy is registration of your car. You don't get your car registered, excuse me, if you don't get let's go back to the good or bad old days when you had to get your car inspected, and you get your car inspected, but you don't pay the bill. I don't think anyone would be supportive of using a suspension of a license for not paying the private garage for what you had to get because the state ordered it. So I think it's the same circumstance, and I don't think anybody would be supportive of that. They can go to small claims court
And get a judgment which is worth the paper it's printed on.
Well, they're not going to get the money. Either way, for the people who aren't going to pay them, even with a small claims court judgment, or the loss. Either way, you're not going to get they lose their license. You're not going to get the money either way. So I think that's a wash.
I'll say this though: the current state of the law is license suspension, so this does make it.
Yeah, it's
better.
It's headed in the right direction, but I'm not speaking. God knows I'm not speaking for my caucus. I just have a problem with that. It bugs me.
Representative Mannion.
Thank you. So we currently do that with insurance. If you're in an at-fault accident and you don't have insurance and there's a judgment against you, they can suspend your license to collect that money for the insurance company. Now, granted, it has to be a judgment through the court, but we do that for insurance companies that want to collect a judgment. Your license can be suspended.
Yeah, and I don't like that either.
All right, you
just want license to be untouchable unless it's for a motor vehicle.
No, I don't want license. I'm fine with suspension of license in the right circumstance.
For motor vehicle offenses.
Yeah, but the problem.
We're using it as leverage. It's blackmail.
I understand.
Yeah.
The underlying problem is there's gonna be a group of people who lose their license, and it just turns into a spiral. Then they drive without the license, and they don't have very much money, and I don't. It still feels like they're punishing somebody by taking away their ability to get to the store, to get to a job, just because they're poor.
What if they had state-run tows? Like I do believe New York City has their police department has their own tow service.
That'd be different. It's state agency.
Same, right? But
This is debt
them
collection.
hiring a tow
Well,
company.
wait a second, though. New York, first of all, New York is a communist state, so a city right now, correct? If I'm wrong,
Well, I
so
don't-
we
I'd have
can't
to
take
defer
over
to them, but-
business. I don't think.
But
Does
regardless
that
of whether
shut
it's
him up, or
state-owned
does
or
it shut me
state,
up?
if it's
Nobody-
state sanctioned, the state has a contract with these companies. So, in my opinion, it's the same thing.
So maybe if you looked at it from the angle of they become agents of the state through that contract, it's the state going after them.
Yeah, they
You
don't,
don't
have
like it
to
anyway.
accept, they don't, they can say, is it a crappy car, or is it a good car? I'll come if it's a good car, I'm not gonna come if it's a crappy car.
Well, what does the trooper do on the side of the road at 3 a.m. with Route 93 closed? Oh,
I
they do
don't,
have those things on the front.
I don't think it's a state agency. I don't think it's acting as an agent of the state. I know pretty much everybody here is going to disagree with me, but I don't like using a license loss to punish people for being poor.
So noted. You are on the record. Representative Lascelles.
Yeah, I think that being in the towing business is a tough business, and they are performing a public safety service by going out there and risking life and limb. That's why we have a move over law to go out there and get that car off the road. And and we owe it to them to protect them from a public safety issue and to protect their business. And if people are not going to pay the towing bill, it's not right to me to take away their livelihood. But at the same time, you have to protect those businesses to provide some incentive for people to pay their bill. So I think, Mr. Chairman, that your amendment is a reasonable alternative to the original bill and the way it is now.
Thank you. Further?
I'll.
Are you going to rebut him or?
I had a brilliant rebuttal, but.
All
It's
right.
not going to change anything.
Yeah. Okay. Representative Muse.
I mean, looking at the original bill and looking at the amendment, I'm sorry. Looking at the original bill and looking at the amendment, one of the things that you can see is that there are some substantial differences between the two. We are the second committee on this bill. Transportation did a lot of work and got this bill passed on consent. So I hesitate to unwind things that they've done, and it's not that I don't think the amendment has merit. One of the things that I actually like about the amendment, if you go over to page, kind of the bottom of page 7 going into page 8, I think one of the good things that it does is it changes the current the ability of the director to suspend or revoke a license for failure to pay storage fees, and basically says under no circumstances shall the director do that. And what it does in its place is it puts something, it basically allows the director to not renew a license. So I think, one of the things I always, I'm trying to look at here from a penalty perspective, this bill seems to hit the mark for me. As to the other things that the bill does, I really have no way of knowing whether we're upsetting things that the transportation worked very hard on and got consensus on from other people, or just what the story is. But I'm
I can
always
tell you
very
that-
hesitant to vote for a bill that appears to be very, very different from what the first committee sent over to us, because we're not the policy experts in this area.
I can tell you I spoke to and ran this amendment by the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and as well as the people who actually sponsored it in the Senate. And they were actually in favor of the change, actually all the changes that were made. So it's not substantially different. It actually fixes a couple things. the way it was written, due to the statutory construction, it would have made it a crime, a misdemeanor, or even a felony for the tow truck drivers or companies who didn't put the appeal notice on the invoice. And now it's only $100 fine. So we've avoided that risk. And as far as the consumer, it changes the, as you said, the suspension to a non-renewable. So that's really the only big changes from all the substantive work that they did do, as you said, in the committee. And I had a conversation almost an hour with the chairman last night, going over this line by line, and he felt that it still reflected the work that they did, and it actually made it a little bit better and more likely to pass the full House. So whether that addresses your concerns or not, hopefully it does. Representative Scher.
I remembered my brilliant comment. We've heard no evidence to how frequently tow truck drivers are not getting paid. We just don't know.
The Transportation Committee did, however, know, and that's why they were the ones who put that in there.
And what did they know?
They knew that they were not getting paid, and it was taking a long time for them to get paid, and they were actually having to spend enormous amounts of money because, in other words, if it's almost like a mechanic. When you don't pay the mechanic, he gets a mechanic's lien on your vehicle. In order for him to do anything with that, he has to spend all these other things and go to court to before he can actually sell that vehicle, to get a title, to get this and that. And in the case of these fellows or ladies, they end up doing all that just to have a pile of junk that got hit by a tractor trailer. They end up losing money on these tows. So it's almost, they're operating within the margins as it is. But the only reason we're even addressing this is because of the overcharging of people for storage. And so this is really, I think, a consumer protection type bill. And the only reason we have it is because it started getting into suspending licenses and fines and such. So I did what I thought I could to make it less onerous with the misdemeanor felony and to not suspend the licenses. So we felt that together would be something that could pass the body. And at the end of the day, it's not perfect by any stretch. It doesn't address your concerns about attaching licenses at all, but it does make it better than the current state of the law. And I hope that answered you, Representative Muse, as far as what the other committee did, that we weren't messing with it too badly. Further questions, comments, discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Representative Muse.
So in the in the current bill, just looking at the front part of it, review of fees for removal and impoundment, there's a sizable section for that I'm not finding in your amendment. Is there a reason for that?
The part he's talking about in the original bill, or the bill that, are you reading the bill as it came from the House, I mean, from Transportation, that they amended it, or are you looking at the original bill?
As amended by the House. Whatever's in the docket is the last version of the amended bill.
And which piece are you asking about? I'm going to see if I can.
And then let me see, the date is March 26, 2026 for what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
A couple of amendments on.
Yeah, if you look on it, if you look at the amendment list on here, there's April 23rd, it was amended by the Transportation.
So there's another amendment
Yeah,
by
that's-
Transportation.
yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
1510 each. I don't have it. That's what's on the bill.
Yeah. What's that?
I think both of those are in this one.
Yeah. In the newest
Is
amendment,
in
yeah.
the amended
Yeah,
by
the,
the House.
my amendment operates
As
on the
opposed.
latest version of the bill from Transportation.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only changes from Transportation are what you see in black, in italics, bold italics. And again, this was first sent to the chairman of Transportation to bump up against their bill, and was vetted by Major Amatucci with the state police as well. I think the only people who aren't particularly happy with it are the industry who still would like to have the suspension of the license, but I was very clear that that would probably not have the legs to pass, even though it's the existing law. So I think they would prefer that the whole thing go away, which I would rather not. And I'd love to give you more time because I know you guys just got this today, but we just don't have the calendar left. We got these bills at the last minute.
So on this bill, where I'm at on this is I am inclined to give the chair the benefit of a doubt. And if there are issues
You can always vote no on
in
the floor.
conference committee, they can be worked out in conference committee. But the part for me that puts it over the top is the fact that people are going to be subject to lighter penalties when it comes to things like license suspensions and things of that nature. And, you know, in a state where it's, you know, very hard for some people to fight things like this, it's hard enough for them to pay their fees. And I think this is the one thing that we probably would need to look at in a conference committee, because some of the language that was removed actually appears to require these companies to actually justify the fees that they charge. So lowering the fines is one thing, and that's a good thing. But if we're doing nothing to put any kind of limit on what kind of fees can be charged, that's another thing altogether. So I'd say the conference committee is going to have some work to do.
I tend to agree. Again, I didn't really get into those changes because they were made by transportation and they're the committee of expert on as far as this goes. So I focused like a laser on what is this doing to people penalty wise, not into the justification to what they decided should be right or wrong as far as tow charges. But your point is well taken that piece was probably one of the reasons the bill was brought in the first place. So let's see what we come up with at a committee of conference. I think that is certainly something that should be addressed. Further discussion from anybody? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion is to adopt the amendment.
Representative Mannion?
Yes.
Representative Prue?
Yes.
Representative Lascelles?
Yes.
Representative Devoyd?
Yes.
Representative Lynn?
Yes.
Representative Saborn Deschrenier?
Yes.
Representative Harry Gathright?
No.
Representative Muse?
Yes.
Representative Newman?
Yes.
Representative Murphy?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Shear?
No.
Chairman Roy?
Chair votes yes.
11-2.
11-2, the motion carries. I think it can still go on consent unless you want to object. Oh, and never mind. I forget where I am. Okay, 11-2, the amendment is adopted. I will recognize myself to make a motion of OTPA with the amendment,
Second.
seconded by Representative Prue. I don't have anything else to say unless anybody else does. I think we've covered it all. Seeing no one, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll. The motion is OTPA.
Representative Mannion?
Yes.
Representative Prue?
Yes.
Representative Lascelles?
Yes.
Representative Devoyd?
Yes.
Representative Lynn?
Yes.
Representative Saborn Deschrenier?
Yes.
Representative Harry Gathright?
Yes.
Representative Muse?
Yes.
Representative Newman?
Yes.
Representative Murphy?
Yes.
Representative Shear?
No.
I skipped myself. The clerk votes yes. Representative Shear? And Chairman Roy?
Chair votes yes.
12-1.
Do you object to consent? Any objection to consent? Seeing none, will go on consent. Close the executive session. I open wait a minute, let me find my paper. I get so much papers on me. Just kidding. Today. I know, but is there the amendment? Oh, never mind, I get it. Okay, with that, I'll open the executive session on SB 624. We have had conversations, and we are pretty close to an agreement. We were inclined to pass it as is. However, there has been some discussion about reaching out to some folks in the executive branch about potentially limiting this to age and perhaps a couple other things with regard to synthetics. So we're gonna really push this one up against the wall. We're gonna come back next Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and have the final executive session on this. I'm going to give the parties involved time to collaborate and come back and see if they can come up with a better amendment. If they can't come to an agreement between now and then, we're going to pass it with the original amendment Jonah brought today and let it go to the floor. So I encourage the parties to come to some kind of agreement. I tend to, at this point, I'm with the Liquor Commission. I think we need to get something done now and not kick it down the road to wait to see what the feds come up with, because just like we had to do with Kratom, there's kids out there right now buying this stuff. So I want to get something to the governor's desk definitely this year. So let's come back Tuesday and be ready. Representative Scher.
And I would encourage, as people work on other possibilities, that we exchange efforts so that we don't run into a situation where
You're forced
Tuesday
to
at
vote
10,
no.
we're
Yeah.
reading what Representative Lascelles came up with.
I would ask everyone within your own caucus to do, if we can't start doing back and forth emails with the committee, it becomes a 91A issue. So just you guys talk to each other and we'll talk to each other, and you and I or somebody will talk to make sure we're all ready. I'd like to see it unanimously come out of this committee next week, because I think we all agree that that this is a problem as it is right now. Just the question is how to figure. Yes, sir.
Let the record show that next Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo.
I'll bring tequila shots.
Tequila and
So if you're drinking by the time
burritos are in order. Excellent food. All right. With that,
The xylazine today?
we can't. We can't. Well, we could adopt the amendment, but the bill underlying bill's going to. Go ahead.
Maybe I have two changes to it that,
Talk to me.
yeah, I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. All right. With that, we're done for the day. I'll see you guys Tuesday at 10.
Ready to report on 6/17?
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay. I